Welcome in, everyone, to Girl, How'd You Get That Gig? For my partner, Celeste Gehring, I'm Amy G, and we are extremely excited about today's guest. Soccer icon, soccer legend, Julie Foudy is joining us on our podcast, a reporter and analyst for ESPN, Turner Sports, and NBC Now, but former captain of the U.S. women's national team, a two-time Olympian, and a two-time World Cup champ. This is going to be a great hour. So I do want to take a minute before we get into your career and I just want to say thank you. First and foremost, you are literally, you're positive, strong, funny, and a thoughtful representation in women's sports, and not to mention a trailblazer. But for anybody listening today, and we hope it's a whole bunch of people, and some will have been born after 1990, and they may not be as familiar with Julie Foudy's story. But for those of us, and we're like awesome, who were born in the 70s, right?
We're awesome.
The first generation of Title IX babies. And you were everything to us as female athletes growing up. And I won't ask you how much, the question's too big about understanding how much you mean to people, but I will ask you how you've been able to process knowing that, and you've maintained this beautiful humbleness to yourself in that, and how you were able to do that.
Oh no, I think I'm a massive deal, Amy G. Don't get me wrong. No. I mean, my security guards are around the corner. No, I mean, we're not a big deal. Yeah. I'm not Mia Hamm. If I was Mia Hamm, then I'd be a big ass deal.
Oh, she's very sweet too. I have had the pleasure of interviewing her.
She's lovely.
Mm-hmm. Very shy.
Very shy, but actually one of the funniest humans I know. Hilarious. Like so dry and witty, and the perfect superstar to have on your team. But I think, we have this really amazing group of women I was surrounded with for so long on that national team, or while I was playing at Stanford, or even growing up. I've had these really amazing groups of teammates that are just rad women that I'm still tight with, all of them. Mm-hmm. And really like grounded group that was all about like, hey, how do we, it's why I actually love that we were kind of the first gen, as we call it, of the soccer group, because you had to slog through a lot and you had to fight for a lot. And we, as we know, that current team got us to equal pay, but back in the day we were fighting for all these things, and we were getting $10 a day, and I'm not going to go back to all that, but like it was interesting because it obviously we wanted to win, but as a group you came together as this family because you're fighting for something much bigger than just winning, and you're trying to make it better for the next generation. You're trying to promote women's sports, all these things that we were very cognizant of. And so because of that, and even as the team got more popular and more successful, that team always was so very grounded. I mean, to this day, we all still talk to each other. We have a 99ers text chain. We're all still tight, and that's really cool. Like to have that gift of these amazing women for the rest of your life, that you really, it's seamless. Like we did I have my own podcast, and we did a podcast with them for our 100th episode, was a surprise. And I think we got 19 of the 20 on the call. Wow. And so, yeah. And all of us, it was just seamless. Like we hadn't done a Zoom like that in a long time. We're going to have to start organizing that. But it was complete chaos and so fun, but it's like nothing changes, Right. Like, oh my God, Brandy needs the Zoom link because she's late and can't remember anything. And so it's just fun.
It's well, anyway, I just wanted to say thank you from a girl that played soccer and never gonna be at your level, but man, I was so happy at who did represent us and our plight for wanting to be seen as athletes, and what that meant growing up being athletic, and how important it was in my life, and still is. I mean, it played a role into where I worked, and same with Celeste. So, all right. So quick history lesson. Julie mentioned the 99ers, 1999, the world comes to a halt to watch the Women's World Cup finale between the U.S. and China. Game comes down to a shootout. And we get one of the most iconic moments in all of sports when Brandy Chastain scores the game-winning goal and tears off her jersey, which is like one of my favorite moments of all time in sports. And I've always wanted to ask you this. Can you just play back that moment just before Brandy's about to take the kick and give us your perspective? What was going through your mind at that point?
So if Brandy made it, we won. If she missed it, I was next. And then I would have been the sixth kicker. And so it would have gone 1-1, meaning I kicked. If I made it and the Chinese player made it, then we'd go to the seventh kicker. But if I made it and the Chinese player missed, then it would be over. You just go 1-on-1. And I just knew, like, I didn't even want to get to that. Like, let's just be done with this. Let's have a party. Let's not even bring Julie into this equation. Like, I have no abs like Brandy has. Like, you're just going to see a big beer gut. No one needs to see that. Like Brandy. I mean, Brandy's the perfect photo. Right. So, that's what I was thinking, because I was next. And so, yeah, I was very elated when she calmly just buried that one into the corner, as Brandy does, and then got naked, which is, my favorite, because it's so Brandy. Everyone's like, I can't believe she did that. I'm like, what? She's never has a top on. That's how she lives. We trained in Florida coming into that World Cup, and
that's fair though. It's very hot there.
Never had a top on. So I was like, of course she took her top off.
Well, that's great. Go Celeste, because that's a perfect segue into where we want to go.
Yeah, and at that time it was quite scandalous, her doing that. What did you think of her reaction to that goal, her tearing her shirt off, and the backlash she also got for that?
Yeah. I thought, at first I was like, oh my God, that's the only question I'm going to get. Here we go. I'm going to have to talk about Brandy being naked. And then I was like, well, hell yeah, she can flex. Like, look at that. Like, that's a strong woman who's like, yeah, we just won the World Cup. And what people don't realize is that's a very soccer move beyond it being a very Brandy move. Like I said, it's what soccer players used to do. Now they get yellow cards for doing that. Every male soccer player, I should say, used to take their top off like that and kind of swirl it around. And that was and Brandy was one of the biggest soccer heads on the team. Like, she grew up watching soccer every day, all the time. And so that was a very natural response to her. So yeah, I look back and I love it. I love that she was strong, and it created a splash, and it created more discussion around, women's bodies and female athletes and all of that. So, but yeah, it wasn't surprising. I mean, there was a lot of, as we know, with women's sports, you're always going to get a little pushback, but I think overall, a lot of women were like, do what you want to do. Who cares?
I felt that way for sure, and was very surprised. And it's what I find so fascinating is I think a lot of things have not changed over time. I watched the LFG documentary where you talk about thinking after you guys won the World Cup, things are going to change money wise and equality wise. And here we were 20 years later, and it was kind of the same situation. But with Brandy, I just remember thinking, what is the big deal? She's got a sports bra on. Like, what are we talking about here? Right. And I kind of had my own moment, not when I took any clothes off, but in 2009 for the Giants, Jonathan Sanchez throws a no-hitter. I'm waiting to interview him, and I'm not even on camera. And he's going down this line of 25 players, all the coaches, the trainers, hug, gets down to me, the in-game reporter. I know him. I've covered him for 2 seasons. He reaches in to give me a hug. Well, at that point, the camera goes on to me.
And you're hugging him.
And I hug him because it was like my kid. And I'm like, good job. That was awesome. Let's have a fun interview. Plus, your dad's here for the first time ever in your professional career. I got so much heat. And I'll never forget, my husband, who works at ESPN as well, called and he said, you got caught. And I was like,
he said, what?
You got caught. Like, you got caught on camera hugging a player. That is a major no-no. And I was like, And I go, you're just jealous because you haven't covered a no-hitter. This is what it's about. Well, he wasn't. He was on like spot on. And for 2 weeks, I got just chewed out on sports talk radio for how unprofessional I was.
Oh
and
my
today at 50, I can hug any player I want whenever I want, and it's celebrated and it's on Instagram and it's, oh, look at how she knows the players, how great. It's just time can help change the perspective of that. But anyway, so I always like kind of like have that like resonance of what Brandy went through, because you're like, what is the big, I do not understand what the big deal is. But Julie's a big deal, and I want to start asking some questions about your career. And now you're on the analyst side and you're on the broadcast side. You came to the dark side with us, which I'm so excited about. When did you start contemplating life after soccer, and what did that look like when the first thoughts started happening?
I was going to go to med school. I was accepted into med school, was going to be a doctor. And then I was like, what the hell am I doing? I don't want to do this. This is a lot. And it wasn't even necessarily a soccer decision. It was just like, I don't know if I want to go down this path and then have hundreds of thousands of debt. And like, what if I don't even like being a doctor? And then I'm stuck with all this debt. And that was right after we won the Olympics in 96. Prior to 99 happening. So I almost went on to med school and quit soccer. And then I just decided like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to see how this soccer thing goes and keep going. I'm enjoying it. And then, went on to play another decade and a half. Or no, how many? 96, 04, another decade almost. So
you said you didn't go to medical school because your math is...
Yeah, not my math.
Good choice.
Everyone always asks me like medical questions. I'm like, I took the MCATs like 700 years ago. I don't know. I did biology. Like,
I tease.
Then I don't know. I think just from doing a lot of interviews on the national team, people would say, you're supernatural. You should think about it. I never did journalism, as unfortunately in my undergrad career. And then, so when I retired, well, actually before I retired, I started calling men's World Cup stuff at ESPN while I was still playing and double dipping a little bit. And then but I never wanted to do just soccer. So I think that's probably what I'm most proud of, is I really pushed. I mean, as they do, they want to kind of say, oh, well, then you're going to be an analyst. I'm like, that's kind of boring. Like NBC was great. I said, I don't want to call the Olympics. They wanted me to call the Olympics. I said, I'd rather learn how to put a story together and do features for you.
Feature producer.
Yeah, so I did a lot of Olympics. Now I'm calling them. But I did a lot of Olympics as feature producers, and doing features, which was super fun, and learning how to interview people and just learning different skill sets. So so I have a lot of versatility there, which I like. It's not just, one trick pony of calling soccer. And soccer is like what I know. So it's kind of boring in a sense. It's not boring. It keeps me in the game, but it's like, I mean, I like my soccer bit, but I actually love all the other stuff I do.
Well, in storytelling, I was just going to add before you ask that, storytelling is the one thing that constantly changes, right? Like you could be in one sport, but everybody's story is different that's on the team. And that's our background as well, as being feature producers. So, yeah.
And speaking of other things, how did being a mother really affect your career choices?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the joy of what I do is it's super flexible, and I can choose a lot of, do I want to do this or not, outside of US games, and some big events. But, summers are crazy. I'm on the road a lot because I do a lot of Olympics and World Cups and Little League World Series and Special Olympics runs in the summer too. I love that. So, but what I always tell kids is when I'm home, I'm like home, like I'm there. I'm picking you up. I'm taking you. And they're, and so at first they were like, Mom, you're on the road again. They still do that. Actually, they're 14 and 16 now. My daughter just the other day was like, Mom, when do you slow down? I was like, December 6th, and then I'm free.
When you graduate from college.
Yeah, exactly.
And all the bills are paid.
I'll be done. So it's the flexibility, which has I've thought many times, like, because I could have gone a lot of different ways, I think. And I thought many times, should I jump out and do something else, given the opportunity from people to do other things? And the thing I keep coming back to is like, I'm still going to be on the road. It's going to be less flexible, right? It's less enjoyable. Maybe I get to go cover these amazing events all the time and have fun and bring the kids at the end of it all. So that's where I've really enjoyed the television side of it, because of that flexibility for being a mom.
One of the things I see so much in baseball, Julie, and I think it translates to covering any sport, is when a former player goes into the booth, they're pretty fresh off their playing days, and now they have to critique guys
Yeah.
or gals that they played with.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about how early in your broadcasting career, when you were analyzing, how you navigated through that, and maybe how that's changed over time, and how you handle, we call it a homer in baseball, not being a homer, but giving good
Yeah.
information and being
Yeah.
critical where it's appropriate to be critical,
Yeah.
but keeping that relationship with the player solid.
It was really hard when I first got into it, because your relationships are so fresh, right? Like, they're all your past teammates. Now,
Yeah.
like, I have no former teammates playing anymore. So that's a very different. It's like, I can rip them up as much as I want. But when you're first getting into it and it's like, oh, these are all my people I have really good relationships with. But I knew, like, I got some really good advice early. Like, you have to give both sides of it, right? Or else no one's gonna respect you as a commentator, and your career will be very short lived. And I've never had a problem with speaking my mind to begin with. Um, but I did have a lot of tears and calls from teammates saying, why would you say that? And I would say, but where they get it from, they get it from social media, like, oh, Julie's killing this player tonight. And I'd say, did you, and all I would say is, did you hear the commentary, or are you reacting to social media? I said, because if you go back and listen to it, go back, and they would always say, no, I'm just reacting. Okay, well, go listen to it. And if you disagree with me, then let's have a conversation. But first, go listen to it before you come at me with like tears
Sure.
about, and they never did. So I'm like, it's fine.
Did you ever have any tears in that transition? Was it ever, what was difficult for you in that position?
I
Or are you not
think,
a crier?
no, I'm not a big crier. I think probably difficult was just time on the road away. Kids were
Mhm.
young. I think that's the hardest thing, balancing as a mom. Um, so yeah, and then just the volume of learning. I was doing some men's. I do really. Having said that, I have to go do two men's games this week. Next week, I'm like, I don't do as much men's anymore, because it's a lot of volume, like watching games, and and I'm like,
Prep.
I don't need to be consumed in soccer on both sides, men's and women's, all the time. No, thank you. So let's just like stick to one. So I really try not to do the men's, not because I don't love the men's. It's just I don't want to spend my whole day watching soccer all the time. And so I think that was probably the hardest part, is the volume and how much you need to watch and pay attention and all of that. Um, so, but yeah, no, I never really had a hard time. I figure, like, in terms of like criticizing people, I think if you do it the right way with
Mhm.
empathy, right? It's not like, oh, that player sucks. God, what was wrong with her?
Really
You're
thinking.
just saying like what they see, and you're doing it with empathy. You don't have to slay them, but you have to say it.
Yeah.
And I think I probably have been able to straddle that, I think, well, which is, and then you obviously continue your relationships with these players as well.
Mhm.
So I think that's probably why I've been able to do it for so long.
Do you think your player mentality and your role as the captain in the leadership position for the US nationals team helped you into the broadcasting booth?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think also people like knew I came from a good place of, like, when you're, what we did on the national team with myself and Carla as the two captains, that, we had to make some huge decisions, and they always trusted us to make the right decisions, but we always wanted them on board with our decisions. So when you have a team that knows, like, okay, you got two people who have the best of intentions for us as a group and who care deeply about this sport, then they're going to follow that. So I think having that as always kind of like my first area of background that people refer to, I think is always super helpful. Yeah. Because
Mhm.
they
You
know
did it.
that you make good decisions, you have good instincts, and you're in it for the right reasons. It's never about me. It's never about what I get out of it. It's about what the group gets out of it. And when you, I mean, that's everything in life, right? And it's what this has been my sweet spot, I think, going forward. It's like people know it's not about me. And so they want to work with you. Right. And that's
Right.
something I talk to my kids about to this day. Like it's never should be about you. And yes, we want to be competitive. And yes, we want to excel and do well. And I'm all for that. But like at the end of the day, you gotta be a good teammate. That's first and foremost on my list.
That's really good advice too for anybody aspiring to be an analyst. It is not about you, right? Let's talk a little bit about female athletes, Julie, having a path, a much longer path than they used to have. For so many of us, if we played sports and it was our career would very likely end when we graduated from college. But the 99 US women's national team changed that across the map for so many women. Not for me. Mine ended in college. And so did Celeste, but it's fine because we didn't play soccer. But that team,
I'm okay with it, I swear.
that team established the first women's professional soccer league, the first collective bargaining agreement, which all men's sports have, and really gave women the ability to have this viable career in soccer. So the thing is, though, you can't play forever. So what advice would you give when women are in this juxtaposition of what do I do next, about determining and evaluating their skills as players? That's kind of all they know at that point. But how did you determine and evaluate your skill set to go to the next chapter? And what advice do you give women in that situation right now?
You mean who are wanting to play or in any
No,
job?
just like if you think
Any.
that it's you're trying to figure out what's next. And so
Yeah.
for you, yeah, like I guess the question should just be a little more simple in what advice do you give women trying to determine their value and their skill sets? Because we believe, Celeste and I, in this podcast, like when you're trying to get a gig, you need to know what you're good at.
Right.
You need to sell that and be able to do that. But when you're younger, it's very hard to figure that out.
Yeah.
So what would
And
you
to know
tell?
what it is. It's a
Mhm.
great point. Yeah. Um, my rule was always, am I going to find joy in this? Because I knew if I loved something, I was going to grind at it. And I think when you're young, you got to be willing to put in the work. You've got to grind. And you've got to do the research, and you've got to be available, and be in kind of a full press type of mode. And so which is why, for example, I didn't do med school. Like I had all these reservations. Like I'm not even going to love this. I'm going to be stuck in a hospital or doing research. And I'm like an outdoorsy, hyperactive, I need people. Like, I know this is not like who I am, as much as it like sounds great and I can make a lot of money. Like, but there's no joy in that for me because that's not who I am. I don't want to be inside in a hospital all day. And so I think that was really my guiding light. And then I had a chance like to go to a Nike, or I had a chance actually to go to Wall Street. And I had a chance like with these little forks in the road where people were kind of pulling. And I would always come back to, what am I going to get the most joy out of? What am I going to have the most fun? And I can also be successful, and I can do the things I want, and I have some flexibility or whatever matters to you in that moment. So, and then when I would go down that path, I would make sure like, okay, I'm going to try television, and I'm going to be prepared. And I'm not just going to walk into a game not knowing the players. I'm not just going to walk into a game and say, oh, do you know what I've done? And I don't, but I know nothing about this game. And so I put in the work.
Yeah.
And I think, that has served me well. And I was willing to say, can I try something else besides soccer? Like get out of your comfort zone of, this is, yes, this is what I'm good at. And you want to, talk about that, but be also willing to be versatile, because if you're versatile, which has been my longevity in television, is because I can do so many different things, right? I can host, I can moderate, I can be a reporter, I can be an analyst, I can do feature stories. And some people don't have that. They're much more limited.
Pony.
Yes. And so when, you know, ESPN loses soccer, which they did, it wasn't like, okay, great, that was a good run. I still keep my gig at ESPN doing all the non-soccer stuff, and I moved all my soccer stuff over to Turner.
Right.
So that I think has really helped.
That's really great advice.
Yes. And speaking of all the stuff that you've been doing, mentorship is so important. Amy and I are all about mentorship. And you started your Julie Foudy Sports Leadership Academy. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you started it?
I started it because we were doing just a soccer camp, and I thought, oh my God, if I'm just teaching a girl how to kick a ball, what the hell am I doing? Like, sports are so much more important than, like, who cares? I was like, shoot me now if I am just doing a soccer camp. I just felt like, oh my gosh, why aren't we talking about the gift that is sports and all that you learn around it and how it develops you as a human and a confident woman, and you find your voice and your people, and your foundation in life is through sports for me. So we founded it with that in mind. Like, let's do something really fun and engaging for girls, and we'll bring them in, and kind of the hook is sports, but really the gift is that they leave with this skill set of like, oh shit, I didn't know I could do that. Or
I'm amazing.
yeah, I'm
Mhm.
actually quite amazing. And I don't need to be a president or a CEO or a politician to make a difference in this world. I don't need to be a millionaire.
This is my new prop.
Yeah, I love it.
Damn girl.
Damn girl.
You gotta hand these out to all those little girls in your foundation. Damn
Yeah.
girl.
Mhm.
Yes.
You could make
So
it say darn, I guess.
no, they would
Yeah.
respect that. So yeah, so that was the genesis of that. And I mean, we've been doing it for like 2 decades. So it's been really fun. We're like 18 years in. But
Oh.
it's but yeah, it's and the whole point being is, can we plant these seeds with these young girls to show them that they do have a voice, they do have,
Mhm.
you know, they should raise their hand, they should get out of their comfort zone. All these things I wish I had kind of learned earlier in my life is what we're trying to plant that seed for.
Somebody's laying under the shade of a tree today because somebody planted that a long time ago.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
just, I love that you do that. I do want to touch on quickly, because you've been such really a representation for women's rights, for equal pay through Title IX. I loved watching LFG. It's on CNN. I hope people will go watch it. It's also on HBO Max. If you don't know what LFG stands for, Mom, I'm sorry. Here it goes. Let's fucking go. Sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. She doesn't say that. But our generation does, and we like that word. And I just want to know what you can share about this plight, where it's come, where you think we need to go. Can we get there?
Right. Well, the good news is like women's sports is in such a great spot. I mean, the numbers, the sponsorship revenue. I'm also a co-owner with Angel City, which is a professional women's soccer team in Los Angeles, and it's female owned and led and just crushing it in its first year. The club was bought for $3 million, and it's now valued at $180 million. And I think that's probably way undervalued. I mean, in 2 years. Yeah. Like the women's sports space is just going crazy. And people are finally going, oh, wow, if you put them on
Something
TV,
here.
if we put them on a network television station at the right time of the day, like people will watch, people will show up when you put the Nebraska volleyball team in the football stadium and it sells out 90,000 people in like 24 hours. So that is great. I mean, the challenge is now we've made such great strides in this country. Obviously, the challenge is globally. I still hear these horror stories, and also you just hear sport after sport. Even though soccer has made a lot of really cool advancements, you still hear a lot of female athletes who are like, I can't afford to do this anymore. I've got to. So there's lots to be done. But I think Title IX has been a huge game changer for us in this country with how many girls are playing and the number of girls playing in college. And then obviously whether they go on to play professionally or not, just like, you are the perfect example, Amy G. They go on to be kick-ass women in sports or women in different fields
Julie.
that play.
I'm gonna like record that little bit and take it upstairs with me and watch it.
Well, I think
We
female
played that all
athletes,
day.
I think female athletes don't realize the value they have, and regardless of what level they've played, like just to which is why I've been such an advocate for women just playing something.
Right. Yeah. Just
It's like
play.
you learn so much about yourself, and then they run. I mean, we should be running every business out there, and I always say the first female president will be an athlete for sure
I think
of
so.
the United States.
Yeah. I do feel
Absolutely.
too like that, like one of the biggest things about playing sports was learning how to work with other people, which
Mhm.
never goes away your whole life, whether that's in your job or your friends or your family. Like, how are you going to work through some difficult stuff to keep going in the same direction? And I always go back to, I actually played, Julie, with a girl that you may remember. I don't know. She did not make the Olympic team. She said she was an alternate on the Olympic team, and that might be sketch, but her name was Christy DeVert.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I
So,
know Christy.
so that's
Yeah.
who I grew up playing with, right?
Yeah. She was legit.
Christy always had the ball. Let's just be
Yeah.
honest. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm open. No, Christy, I'm still open. Oh no, she scored. So,
It's
and
like
my
you can't even complain when they score. It's like,
yeah, well, you're like,
oh wait, but you scored.
My mom was her coach. And I loved Christy. Like we were in kindergarten together. She came to every birthday party. She was a live wire. Like I'm sure if you remember her, you know, she was just
Yeah.
like a spaz. And every birthday party we got in trouble because Christy was so loud and wouldn't go to bed and all that stuff. But there was difficulty there. Like you're like, hey, yo, we're a team. Like you got to learn to pass the ball. You got to learn in life to delegate. You got to learn to meet people in the middle. And I learned all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It is a gift. It's the
It is.
gift that keeps on giving.
It does. I know. I think we have one more.
And
Right?
talk about gifts that keep on giving.
I know.
Besides all the other things you're doing, Julie, you also have a podcast called Laughter Permitted. Why are you doing a podcast? What's it about? What's the concept?
Well, you've been doing it a while because she already said she had on. Oh, all my team was on episode number 100.
Well, that's right.
And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my
I
God,
can't keep
I'm on
up.
episode 8, Celeste.
I know.
8.
Let's go, you guys. You're gonna have to turn it to weekly, or else you're gonna be like 80 when you guys get to episode 100. It was started because one of my producers at ESPN would be like, you need to do a podcast. Like it's always when we stop the cameras down after an interview, like the athletes want to stay and chat, and you guys are chatting about like the most interesting shit, and like that's the stuff we need. Like, nah. This was years ago, and I'm like in the beginning of podcasts, and I was like, I don't know. And then she finally talked me into it. Len Olzawi, who's my co-host actually of the podcast, she's the one who kind of dragged me into it. She bought the mic, she edits it, she produces it, she co-hosts it with me. And what I quickly realized is it's nothing like a sit down interview with cameras and lights and all that. It's like, just even though there is a mic in front of people, it's like it was so different. Like you just got a totally different side to people, and it was fascinating. And we've only done women. And most of them, trailblazing athletes, but just kick-ass women. I mean, not all athletes, it can be whoever. So it's just been really fun because you just, as you guys are learning, you get just to sit down and chat, and you're like, oh my gosh. Like every time I get off, I'm like, oh, I just learned something so cool about.
I know. You really do.
Yeah.
I didn't know you wanted to be a doctor. I thought I knew everything about you because I stalked you. But, so if I have my Julie Foudy, who is it for Julie Foudy? Like who's the one you're like, oh, who is that for you?
Billie Jean.
Oh, I got to interview her at a Giants game, and I freaked out because her brother used to play for the Giants way back.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I was so excited to interview her, and Kruk could go back up to Kruk and Kai, our broadcasters, and they're like, you think Amy likes Billie Jean a little bit? Because I was just like,
she probably loved that too.
Amazing. She's
the best. She's been a dear friend for a very long time. And she's just like, I mean, she just cares so deeply about women, about advocacy, about all the good things that we should be caring about, and equality. And she's tireless.
I know.
She's tireless. She's just, actually, it might be in a few weeks. I don't know when you're airing this. She's turning 80. It's crazy.
Is she a November birthday?
Uh-huh. I think November
Yeah.
22nd. Yeah.
Look, see, I have all this kinship with people.
She's
We're like
awesome. So I call her the Kinger. I love the Kinger.
the Kinger.
The
I
Kinger
love
is the
that.
best.
Oh man, Julie, you're the best. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, of course. Congratulations on this.
Thank
8
you.
episodes
you.
in. When you get to 800, I'm back on.
You're number 800.
We're gonna hold
Yeah.
you to that.
You're not gonna do number 11.
Yeah. No one wants that much of me.
All right. Well, we will have a lot of fun continuing to watch your amazing career. And again, we're just, so thankful and grateful for you and representing all of
thank you.
us. So thank
Best
you.
of luck
All right,
to
girl.
both of you with this.
Go take a shower after your beach volleyball game.
Oh, I got that in. Usually I'm like cleaning my ears. I'm like, oh my God, I got sand falling out of my hair.
Yeah, it's not a clean sport.
That's a good life though.
All right. Take care, Julie.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Girl, How'd You Get That Gig with hosts Amy G and Celeste Gehring. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and follow us on Instagram. The handle is @GirlGigPodcast. Followers and subscribers are automatically entered to win our giveaway prizes, announced every other Wednesday on our Instagram page. Until our next episode, go get that gig.